You'd like to see how to build out a work order system, and I'm here to deliver. Hi, I'm Darren Neese, and I'd like to show you such a system we're building here on this channel using Microsoft PowerApps. This particular work order system is tailored to be used by a service center garage, but you could adapt it for all kinds of other work order use cases. Let me show you. So the first screen I'd like to show you is a user management screen. In order for the users of the system to be able to log in, they need to be added into the system and also managed. So that's what this screen is for. So some of these users are actually technicians that can work on the cars that are brought into the service center, and some of the users are office admins. I'm going to log off for a moment here. I'm going to click on Switch User. This is the login or the switch user screen in which technicians can log in and also the office admins. As you can see, there's a right and left section to this screen. So it's nice of how we built this out. These individual users don't need separate Office 365 licensing in order to use this system. So they'll have a computer out in the garage, and all the technicians will be using one or maybe two workstations out there in the garage. And then there will be one or two computers inside the office in which they'll interface with the customers that come in that need work done on their cars. So when customers come into the shop, we might need to look them up or simply add them into the system. Let's click on one of our customers here. So you see here, Adam Lyman has two cars that he brings into the shop. So if we were to add a new customer, we would add their details here. Some of the fields have defaults, can save the record, and then they can start adding vehicles that need to be serviced. So in any good work order system, who is it that the work needs to be done for? You need to capture that. Before we can define work that needs to be done, the system needs to be aware of the different types of work that can be done within that system. So for example, we have job types. What's the work? Do they need an oil change? Do they need new tires? Do they need an engine rebuilt? Those are very different types of jobs, and the system needs to understand the difference between them. And then we also need a screen in which we put the work order together. A work order would have one or many different jobs inside that work order that needs to be completed, and each item has details that need to be managed. So all these screens that you see here are already built out, but I'd like to show you how to extend this application further. For example, our customer edit screen. We can select a customer, we can select a vehicle for that customer, but how about if we need to see all the service history for one of those vehicles? So we'll be modifying this screen. Once we click on a vehicle, we'll see all the orders that have been created for that vehicle. We need a way to bring up those past orders or currently open orders. But we also need a screen dedicated to listing out all the orders. We need to see all the orders that are happening inside the garage that have been created that day. We also need to have a way of viewing past jobs that have been done in the garage. So here's the second screen that we're going to work on today. It's an order listing screen, and each of these orders have a different status, and we'll be displaying those. Sort of a dashboard to see what's going on inside the garage, all the open orders. So be sure to stick around to the end and see how we build out these two screens. I think you'll like it. But before we get started, I'd like to let you guys in on a tip while using YouTube. Have you ever found while you're watching a YouTube video, like one of my videos, you think maybe I'm speaking a little too fast? Well, you know that you can slow me down a little bit or a lot? Well, what you can do, I have one of my videos up here on the screen, and I wanted to show you what you can do, because every once in a while, I have somebody comment like, "Oh my goodness, you talk too fast." Well, some of my videos do get a little long. In a way, I am trying to hurry up a little bit, but if you need me to slow down, all you have to do is go down to this little sprocket icon at the bottom of the video, go to playback speed, and turn me down to maybe half speed. You might want to play around with it. You just might find a speed that works really well for you. Some of you might think I talk too slow. Obviously, you can turn me up here. So hopefully that's helpful. Now let's dig into this work order system. All right, let's go into customers and take a look at Adam Lyman. We know that he's placed a lot of orders with this garage. So we have a list of vehicles. Whenever we select one of these vehicles, we want to use this space down here to actually list off all the orders that are associated with those vehicles. So I'm going to bring this up. All right, so let's make a copy of these three controls. Do a copy and paste there. Very good. Instead of vehicles, call these orders. So what we're going to do here is we're going to point this gallery, TBL order, and it's going to be vehicle ID. And we're going to reference this gallery up here. Selected .id. So these are all the orders associated with this vehicle. So if I select the Mazda Speed 3, we've got other orders here. All right. And for this button, instead of start sale, we're going to say view order. I would imagine there'd be a lot more rows being displayed in this gallery than this one up here. So what I'm inclined to do is try to make this make the template size a lot less small. dot created. So it would make sense just to have, yeah, maybe the date and the time in which the order was created. That would probably be a good piece of information to know. So if somebody came in, it's like, oh, you've had this car in a lot here in the last month. Let's size this down a little bit. And you know what? Now that we did that, that button should fit a lot better in there now. For the height of this label, we can do parent.template height. There we go. And then now we could set this to more like 60 or 50. Gotta make sure that's in the middle. So we will do parent.template height. Divide by 2. Subtract self.height. Divide by 2. That is not what I wanted to do. What was the height of this button up here? 30. All right. Actually wanted to make that the Y. Okay, that will center it there on that line. All right, very good. So what this will do, record car. Okay, it's going to do something very similar. So the order will actually be this item. There you go. So that will actually be passed in. All right, so our order is being passed in with this item. Now, the difference between these two galleries here, this is vehicles, these are vehicle records, and these are order records. So for the car, what we did up here in the button up here, if you look at it, we just pass in this item for the car, but down here we can't do that because these records are not cars. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference that gallery above, and we're going to say dot selected, and that will give us the car. So we're going to pass in the customer record, which is the record variable for this particular screen. It represents the customer. We got the car and we got the order. We're passing all three of those things in here. Okay, so we just changed this and this. All right, I'm going to run this and I'm going to go view this order. Look at that. And it brings it up. All right, let's click on Mazda. These are all the orders for the Mazda. So click on one, click on view order. There we go. All right, now we need a new screen that's going to list off our orders, not just for a specific car or a customer, but all the orders that are open that have not been closed, that have not been completed. And that same screen could have a drop-down list to actually show you closed, archived orders, orders of different statuses. So right now, orders have 3 statuses. So for example, if we were to go in here and click on Start Sale, the order has not been created in the database yet. But if we were to add a line item, it has to create that because it creates a line item in the database and it needs a corresponding order to associate that with. So it actually creates, as you remember, when we created the code for this little plus button, we actually create that order in the database. So for example, let's assign it to someone, cost is 100 and estimated 1. Now the sale has not been finalized. Okay, so we come to the screen to create an order or a sale, then it's finalized, which means the techs in the garage can see the order has been placed. So those are 2 statuses. And then once the technicians do the work, one of the office admins looks and sees that it's all done, they mark it as complete. The customer can come in and pick up the order. So an order can be created, it can be finalized, like right here, we click on this button, finalize, and then we could have another status, which is the customer comes, picks it up. So those are the different statuses. All right, so what we need to do now is create a new screen that's gonna show all the orders, and then we can filter based on the different statuses. So what I'm gonna do to start a new screen is I'm gonna go find new screen, which is right here. Actually, I'll probably go with blank screen, yeah. And I'm gonna duplicate this, and I'm gonna call this order listing screen. Now I'm going to move this down, probably down here with the other related screens. There we go. I'll put it down here. Let's go back up to View Edit Customer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these controls here. So we have a label, we have a rectangle that's underneath that label, then we've got the gallery, and I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go over to the new screen, order listing screen. I'm going to paste it here. Now what I do want are some of these handy little squares, these rectangles here. I want to add those to this. And you know what? When I add a new screen, I probably want those little squares. I'm going to add them here, and I'm going to add them to the blank screen as well. Now, whenever we add a new screen, we always want our menu to the top, and then we want the spinner on top of that. And let's do the same thing here. Make sure that the menu is on the top. And the spinner's on the top. Very good. So these things should be dynamic. Grab the name of this gallery here. We'll use the Y of the gallery, but then we'll subtract self.height. That should be good. And then we'll grab the name of the rectangle, go to the label, and do the same thing here. So let's bring the gallery to the edges where it needs to be. Very good. And of course, top is always tricky because, well, it's not that tricky. Let's go to 220. That looks about right. And then our height should be 2 more pixels, and then that should bring us to the bottom just fine. All right, very good. So I'm going to take that out. Now this button's complaining because we don't have these things like the customer and the car and all this stuff. But the other screen is going to be expecting those 3 parameters. So let's open this up. We don't open this up a little bit here. Very good. Okay, so what we're dealing with is an order. Okay, so we're on the order. For the customer, we're just going to do a lookup. Lookup on the TBL customers, okay? And we'll say where the ID equals this item dot customer ID. All right, that will give us that. And we will do something similar for this. Do a lookup. TBL vehicles, where the ID equals this item dot vehicle ID. All right, very good. So space that out a little more. That looks good. Now this gallery is filtering. I know we've got a lot more orders than that because we've been testing quite a bit. And right now I don't want to do any filtering. So this is like our where clause that filters down. So I'm just going to say true just to not have any filtering. And there we go. Here are all the orders. All right, so what I'm wondering is for our orders, do we have information about the car and the customer? And it is stored in the title. So what I'm going to do for this button here, I want it more on the right side. Yeah, let's move that over. Let's say this item dot, parent dot template width. I'm going to subtract self dot width and also subtract 40. There we go. All right, so this date right here was when it was created. All right, so what I'm going to do for this label here, where it says orders, I want that to be a heading for this column here. So for the width, I'm going to put something like maybe even 200. And I'm going to say created. I'm going to grab the name of that label, and I'm going to base this label on the heading. So for the width, it should be this dot X. We'll subtract parent dot X. Now for the width, we're going to reference its width. I'd like to right justify that and maybe put something like a good 15 pixels, maybe even 20. And for the text, let's format this. So we'll say month, day, year, hour, minute, AM, PM. And I don't think I want the width of the column to be that much. Maybe 180. Looks good. All right, so we have that created. So copy and paste on that label there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this one here. And for this label, we're going to say the X of that label plus the width. There we go. I'm going to create a copy and paste of that one. Grab the name of that label. And look at the X here. That should be there. There we go. Okay. Created. And maybe we should actually use different words for the user. So created, this one should be maybe started. And perhaps for this one, they're not so interested about the date. Maybe it's more about the time. Grab the time there. Let's just try that out. Okay, so for this, let's make this a lot less wide. There we go. Yeah. All right, so what I'd like to have is a column for the customer, a column for the car, maybe the total, sale total, and also the status. I think that would be good. All right, so I'm going to create a copy of this label. Go in here for the X. Pretty good. Customer, and the width will be 50 or maybe even 200. Sometimes people have long names, so I'm going to make a copy and paste of that label. I'm going to come up here and get this label's name. Go into the X. Oops. Very good. So for the customer, we have this label here. Now inside of this, we're going to be looking at title. Because the title has the customer, it's got the name of the car. But what we want to do is we want to do a little split on this, because you really don't want to do a lookup inside of a gallery item. You want to avoid that as much as you can. So split, and the separator that we're going to look for is a space dash space, and then I'm going to look at the first, and then I'm going to look at the result, and that should give us the name of the customer. Look at that. All right, so let's make it left justified with a 20 on that side. Very good. Okay. Adam is a great customer. It's all just Adam. All right, so let's do the same thing for car. Now the question is this big enough? I'd probably feel a little more comfortable if we made it a little longer. Sometimes people's names can be long. So I will make a copy and paste of that label. Go back here, get the name of it, and then for X, paste that in there, paste it in there. Okay, instead of customer, we're going to say the vehicle service. I'm going to copy and paste on this label. Go up and grab the name of this label. A lot of repetition, huh? Yeah. Very good. The width is set up. Go into the text. Now what we'll do, we'll say first in, and we'll specify, so give me the first two, and then I'll say the last of those two. That should give us the middle value, and it does. Now this one needs to be much longer. Yeah, 400. It's probably gonna be long enough. There we go. I feel like we're gonna be hurting for space a little bit, and when I'm starting to hurt for space, I start to look at things like, hey, is this really necessary? Is that really necessary? Do they really need to see created and then a started? Something that we could do, and the reason I wanted to keep that created was because sometimes started just wasn't provided. Now I see that they all have it. No. I think it's called order created. Very good. Okay. Well, this shows me something that I wasn't aware of before, which is whenever we created the order, looks like we're just saving the date, not the time, because when it actually does have something there, it's just saving the time, the first moment in that day. Okay. So it's something that we need to fix. So what I am inclined to do, the first thing I need to do, something I want to address immediately, is over on the sales edit screen. Let's go in there. Whenever the sales finalized, it should be saving that. Okay. Order created now. Now let's look at the order. Let's look at the list settings for this SharePoint list. and we'll see for that order created. It is a date and time, and it says date only. I want to make sure it says date and time. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's go look at customers. Let's go look at Alan. Does Alan have any cars? No, Alan has no cars. Now, what I'm really wondering about here is, well, why is this showing anything? I think it's because these orders have orphan owners. I think that's what's going on. Vehicle ID. So let me look at the orders and look at vehicle IDs. Yeah, some of them are orphans. So this is good that we saw this, because what we can do, we can filter. So let's reference the gallery. Okay, over here, we're going to filter it. We'll say and count rows. That gallery.all items. As long as that is greater than 0. You see that? That filtered it right up real quick. All right, very good. So let's go find another customer. I think maybe Amy Davies has got some cars. She does. All right, very good. So I'm going to create a sale. And I'm going to create a job over here for the emergency brake. I'm going to assign it to somebody, give it a cost, 1 hour, job notes. And I'm going to finalize the sale here. Very good. All right, so now what I want to do is go back to the order screen. We don't have a menu item for it yet, so maybe we'll do that here in a moment. So we'll go over to the order listing screen. Look at that, Amy Davies. And it's set as 12 a.m. That's very strange. Now, I just went to SharePoint and I updated the list to turn it from date only to date and time. So what I should have done here immediately was refresh that. And while we're at it, let's just refresh this too. There we go. Also, I'd like to create a menu item for this screen. So I'm going to select the name of this, okay, for orders. All right, for apps, app on start. That's what we need. And let's scroll down and look at the menu items that we have here. Where's our menu items? Okay, so I'd like it probably right after customers here. So I'm gonna put in a comment like that. Copy that menu item. Okay, this is gonna be orders. We're not going to use image, but we are going to use, let's put in here cars. See, I think we do have cars, a cars icon. And the name of the screen is this right here. All right, I'm going to save that. I am going to rerun it. Come on. All right, run on start. Here we go. Now, I do want to make sure this menu's on top. And we need to go find our spinner. There's our spinner. We need to make sure that's on top. I'm going to run it. I'm going to go back to the login screen. I'm going to log in. All right, look at this. Orders. And there's our orders. All right, so something we also need to do is if we want to be consistent and add a button here for our cars. All right, so we have Office Admin Home, which is what we're on right now. We got Manage Users, Customers, Orders, and then Job Types. So those are the 4 things that Office admins can manage right now based on the screens that we've created. So we'll add in a button here, and we're going to call this Orders. And instead, we want to keep things consistent here because you could put the word manage in front of all these things. I'm just going to say users, customers, orders, job types. Okay, I'm going to select all 4 of these. And I am going to distribute vertically. And we'll make this a little longer. There we go. And we want to make sure that that button goes to the right screen. So we're going to go over here and get the copy of that. Orders. Very good. Hit save. All right, so we will make sure that this menu is on top. Make sure the spinner's on top of everything. Very good. So now Go to orders, and there's a listing of our orders. Okay, so Amy Davies, we have an order that was just created and it says 7 p.m. Okay, why would it say 7 p.m.? Let's go into it. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to hit finalize sale again. All right, so now I'm going to go back to orders, and this is right. Okay. All right, I think one solution for this, we're sort of hurting for space here, is to make the font sizes a little smaller. Let's go with 11. That's going to buy us a little space here. We could make this a little smaller, like 160. Yeah, let's just see how low we can go here. Let's do a 145 here. I think this will be good. Now we might want to increase that. Let's take out that padding that we had in there. Now we could probably make this a little slimmer now, 145. There we go. We have the customer there. We have plenty of space for the customer. We have the vehicle here. And I think we could probably get away with, let's see, 350. All right. So let's add in a label that's going to provide where the status is for an order. So we're going to add in a label, and we'll put this in here. And for now, I'm just going to put in the ID. What I'm going to do for the height for this label is say parent.template height. And then I'm going to subtract. I want to make that 8. There we go. And we'll go for the Y. And what we will do is we'll say parent.template height divided by 2. And then we'll subtract self.height divided by 2. And that will center that for us. What we'll do for the text here is we will check to see if this item dot order created is blank. If it is blank, we'll say started. Yeah, we'll just say started for now. And then if it's not blank, order placed. Okay. Now we'll do a center alignment there. What we'll do for the back color or the fill, set up the fill, and we'll do this instead of saying started. I'm going to say gray, and then if it is placed, I'm going to say green, and then for the color, make that white, and for the font size, maybe go with like 11. Okay, I'm starting to like this. Now I think for the height, I might subtract a little more, like 10 to make it a little smaller. And then for the border, we'll go in here and do a 1 pixel, do a border color. Let's look at self.fill, but what we'll do is we'll do a color fade. We'll give it a negative number, like 35%. Replace. Okay, so as we move throughout the application, and we're going to add some more statuses to this. We'll add some more text and colors to those different statuses. Okay, but I can see right now we need to add another header right here. And what we're going to do is looking for this label 510. There we go. So we'll take that. We'll go up here, and then for the X. No. Double click on there. There we go. Paste that in there. Very good. And then for this, we'll say status, and then we'll make this something like 200, 140, maybe 160. We'll center that. Maybe bring it in 155. Now what I will do is I will reference that header label in this label here. Go to the X and we'll reference that label X, and then we will subtract parent.x. So now we can go click on one of these. Very good. There we go. All right. So just to review what we've done here, we now have an orders listing. So either started, order placed. We can also go into customers and click on a previous order that's been placed. Click on view order, and we'll see it being pulled up here. Now I will say, you know how we revisited this screen and added this? we're eventually going to have to go back and revisit this and add more statuses. And I could see us having like a drop down for filtering the statuses. Perhaps we need to look at some history or have some filtering, more filter fields at the top. That would make sense. But we'll take a look at that later as we have more statuses to deal with once we develop the other screens. Very good.
Are you feeling overwhelmed with PowerApps? Do you feel there's just so much to learn and you don't know where to start? Lucky for you, Darren has the solution. Discover how you can condense 6 months of PowerApp struggles in just 90 minutes. Click on the link below to learn more about Darren's PowerApps Deep Dive Masterclass.